Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a mom and an entrepreneur. I founded a construction company 7 years ago. We've been on kind of a wild ride over the last 7 years. So we've gone from nothing, obviously, 7 years ago to 7 to 8 figures consistently over the last 3 to 4 years. We've hit 7 to 8 figures and weathered all of the COVID and legislative changes and life changes and became a mom since owning a business. So that's that's a little bit. And I have a real emphasis in my business on culture, and I'm in the process of getting certified to do um coaching to coach my team members as far as emotional intelligence. So
Mhm.
have a little bit of a unique perspective when it comes to business from the standpoint that I really pour heavily into my team and think that developing those skills in them is really critical to being able to um, do well in the workplace. So
Yeah, I really like that because growing up, I've heard when you are in a leadership position, it's always about trying to make sure that you're improving your team, but not to a point where they're surpassing you. But then I kind of took a different approach when I got into leadership. It was try to make my team better than me so that if for whatever reason, if I have to step away, then they can run everything, right? And so, tell us a little bit about the emotional intelligence journey.
yeah, so my emotional intelligence journey kind of started in high school. As far as I was diagnosed senior year in high school inaccurately
Mm,
with bipolar disorder. And so I spent a number of years on medications and like just like totally like I am bipolar. That was the quintessential Sarah.
hmm
And about 10 to 15 years ago, I kind of had a wake up call where it was impairing my ability to work as a nurse because I've got my bachelor's in nursing, and really started getting intentional about getting my life back on track as far as like getting off of meds and learning the skills that I needed to learn to be able to function in life. And so about a year ago, the stress of the business was just like at its all-time high. And so I ended up reaching out to a coach that coached me through emotional intelligence, and it has made a massive difference in my ability to show up every day and function. And I had no idea that that would be the key for me that would unlock my productivity to just increase it to the next level.
Yeah, talk about that. What is it so what were you doing before, and then how did this coaching really
Yeah.
improve your productivity?
So I think before it was just like life would happen and I would just be like, oh my gosh, here's another thing. And now I really have the perspective. Certainly you have those moments like, oh, why is this happening to me?
Hmm
And then I pretty quickly now pivot into, okay, how is this happening for me? What am I going
hmm
to learn through this? What do I control? And using like two circles inside of each other to like write out what I'm concerned about, and then in the inner circle, what's in my control, so that I'm actually focusing on things that I can move rather than focusing just on the things that are in that ether that are just like spinning, so that it's given me tools for when life gets chaotic to be able to know how to focus on what I need to focus on.
Yeah, I love that because especially when running your own business, things are constantly getting thrown at you, and it's not about getting rid of all of these problems. It's just like how do you manage them, and you're actually chasing new problems as you grow because when you grow, there's always new things that you have to handle. So emotionally, how do you I guess handle that?
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing, just playing off of what you said, is one of the things that I used to do is I used to just focus on the business, and then my personal life would fall apart or my health would fall
hmm
apart, and then I'd move to focus on that, and then I'd move
hmm
back to the business. Whereas now I take a little bit of approach where I'm focusing on the business and my health and my physical and my personal and spiritual, and I'm focusing on all of those at the same time because I have more structure and more things to do that with that. So, um, I'm sorry, I think I got us off track on what you were saying
No,
there.
but that's a really important point too, because again, growing up, you see these people that are successful, and it was always, oh, their family life is a mess, but they have this multi-billion-dollar business. But now, like that's kind of shifted to where the most successful people have it all, and it is possible to have it all.
It is. And that was something that that was a limiting belief that I had to overcome because I had this belief that like, okay, if you're wealthy, you're going to be really mean to people and like you're
Mhm.
just going to have your work life and you're not going to have. And now we're seeing people who are actually sharing and kind of pulling back the screen a little bit to show
Mhm.
like, oh, actually like they've been using this to like improve themselves and to improve the lives of others and to like so that's a kind of a that's a really cool thing. I'm sure you've experienced that yourself as far as yeah.
Yeah, because when I got into this game called real estate, I thought it was just simply buy house, collect rent. I didn't realize it was going to be all this personal transformation of how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, how to be a better friend, and all of that as well. How to
Oh,
be happier.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my business has definitely been um the pressure chamber that has created in me it's created me to be a diamond. I never
Mhm.
would have when I started on this journey, I just wanted to have some control over my life a little bit and I wanted to be
Mhm.
actually to work for myself instead of working for other people because I
Yeah.
thought that there was a better way to do construction.
Mhm.
And like you, it's like, oh, this thing that I just wanted this little thing that's like so minor now compared to like all of these other things that this business has brought forth in me.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah. So, I guess when you were in the nursing industry, how did you move towards construction? Because they're like completely different.
they are. So my boyfriend at the time, he's now my husband, was in
Mhm.
construction and I was fried. I was totally dead when it came to like nursing. I have a really big heart. I'm pretty empathetic. And I
Mhm.
have a really hard time like sitting and watching people's lives just spiral. And when you're a nurse, you're with people when they're at the worst part of their lives and
Mhm.
you're with them when they die. I mean, you can be on other sides of it, but I was really I worked in critical care, I worked in a nursing home, assisted living, memory care facility. And so I was really with people when they were at their worst.
Mhm.
And so my boyfriend, I'd quit my job and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And he's like, what do you want to do? And my parents actually had owned businesses for their whole lives together. And so I told him, I said, I want to work with you. And I think he was a little bit like, ooh, like, I'm not sure if I really want to work with her. Like, I think I want a little distance. And so he got me a job doing sales, roofing sales for
Mhm.
this roofing company, probably the only roofing company that would take me because I had no experience and like knew nothing about sales. Mind you, I'm terrified of heights.
Uh-huh.
But to this day, when I climb on a roof, I see the roof collapsing beneath me. And
Uh-huh.
so I got a job where I had to climb on roofs and sell roofs to people.
Mhm.
And I pretty quickly fell in love with the construction industry. It's just like so opposite of nursing. Construction is like wild, wild west when it compared to like nursing, which is like just regulated, like and it's very female dominated. In construction, it's so male dominated. And so I just kind of fell in love with it and worked my way up within the company that I was in, kind of figured some things out, and then there were some things that that owner was doing that I very much disagreed with, and
Mhm.
so I I told him I was going to be either looking for something else or I wanted to start my own thing, and he finally agreed to loan me some money so that I could start my own thing. It took me about 3 or 4 months to convince him that he should loan me some money to start my own thing. So
Sorry, who to loan you money?
my boyfriend.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
now he's
Okay.
now my husband, but my boyfriend
Yeah.
at the time loaned me like $45,000 to start a
Uh,
construction company. And we did fairly well. That first year we did about 1.7 our first full year.
okay. Yeah, that's
So
pretty good. Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
So I found something that I was really, really good at. And
Mhm.
looking back, I'm like, why did I spend $3,000 on desks? And like, why did I do some of the things that I did?
Mhm.
And just learn, just make mistakes and you just do things differently. So
Yeah, but it's all part of the process, right? Like,
Oh, it
uh,
is.
when you first start a business, oh, the first thing I need is a logo. I need a website. I need all this, but that doesn't really, it's not as important in the very, very beginning.
No, and it was, yeah. You don't you don't need half of what you think you need.
Yeah. But
So,
it's okay. It's like with having a kid, right? Before when we were waiting on our first one, we had the nursery, the her room all set up. But day one we moved everything into our room, so it's like we didn't even need all that other stuff in the very beginning.
yeah, I think I actually think that that's a limiting belief that so many people have is like, I don't have this and I don't have this skill and I
Mhm.
don't have this and I don't have that. And so, yeah, talk about like when you start a business, you now have a real reason to get those skills and you'll actually learn what skills you actually need versus what skills you don't actually need.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's true. And every time you think you're done, another week you find another weakness, so then you start working on that, and then just keep building and building.
yeah.
So I guess. For as you start to build up your skills, like what do you do? Do you start doing research do you do podcasts? Do you do books, YouTube? What do you do?
I've done a whole bunch of things. So like I said, I mentioned that coach. You and
Hmm.
I think are both a part of the elite community. And
Hmm.
that's another thing that I've done is where I've joined communities where I feel completely out of my depth.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have that skill. And then so YouTube and YouTube has been very helpful for me. I think that people can honestly learn enough from YouTube to probably run a multi-million-dollar construction company and not pay a penny for any of the trainings that you think you need to have.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, agree. Like when I first got started, it was all podcast, YouTube, and audiobooks, and I mean that'll get you pretty far in the very beginning.
Yeah, and then you reach a point where there's a paywall to get some of that information. And so then that's where you find someone who's done it, you find mentors and you find
Hmm.
coaches that have done it, and then you get in a different the other thing that I've struggled with is finding the community of people who are at the next level because once you reach a certain level,
Hmm.
you may have outgrown a whole lot of people and you have to increase to go to the next level to get the next level of people. And that season of between those is such a lonely season as you walk through
Yeah.
like looking for the next group of people, and they always come at the right time, at exactly the right time you meet this amazing community of people. So
Yeah, yeah. For I didn't even think about that because I'm a part of, a few different groups, but then there are certain things that I want to do that are not available in this group. So then I start looking for other opportunities, but then I'm also scared to make that jump because I'm like, I don't belong there. I'm not at, even close to what they're doing, but that's how you get started, right?
well, I was reminded, someone told me the other day that I heard this quote online the other day that you have to be inconsistent before you can be consistent at something. And
Mm.
you have to be bad at something before you can be good at something. And sometimes we don't even want to start because we don't want to be bad at something. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I should like accept that like no child has learned to walk without falling down. No
Right.
business owner has gotten to a million or 10 million without losing money. Like you lose money in the process of learning to make money.
Yeah.
No one, you can't get to the next level without admitting that you're going to be inconsistent and you're going to be awkward at it.
Yeah, it reminds me of two books. When you started saying that, it was Mindset by Carol Dweck, and then Outliers by
Oh yeah, I think I have both of those. I don't know where they are,
yeah.
but yes, I have both of those.
Yeah, it's great books, right? Because then it makes you realize that these people that you look up to that have accomplished what you want to accomplish didn't do it overnight. It was years and years of hard work and painful lessons. And so, when you do lose money, or there is a painful lesson, or you're going through a rough patch, again, it's not why is this happening to me? It's happening for me to get me to the next level.
Yeah.
But so what is I know you've talked a lot about about a lot of different mindset things, but outside of the ones that you've already talked about, what do you think is the biggest mindset shift you've had to make in going from nursing to owning your own construction business?
That's a great question. I think when I was a nurse, I think I showed up every day, I did my job, and I didn't have to constantly be working on myself.
Mhm.
And I feel like in business, my number one job is improving myself so I can expand the capability for what I'm doing in the business. And that level of like dialing in to changing what I need to in myself, it's a little bit of the growth mindset and it's just like a little different, like, you know, I used to always think that business problems were the reason that people didn't succeed. And I've now realized that there's no such thing as a business problem. There's only personal problems that impact your business. And so I think that shift for me in like, okay, I'm not working out consistently, therefore it's impacting my health. That's where it's impacting like how I'm responding to my team members. Therefore it's impacting, it's like this spiral effect.
Mhm.
And as you see people who are stuck, I think that there's this belief that somehow something out there in the world is just going to change to get me where I want to go. Whereas the reality is, even in like my marriage, I've had this, there were so many things that I used to walk around irritated with him about. And
Mhm.
as I started to work on myself, the craziest thing happened. And all of a sudden he's not doing the things that were irritating me anymore. And I'm like, okay, so maybe he was responding to how I was acting rather than me being the one that was. So like, it's just, it all starts with like you and how you're responding to the world.
Yeah, totally agree. Because I guess the more things annoy you, the more you start behaving a certain way, and then other people just kind of feed off of that negative energy.
Well, and as a business owner, like your team is looking up to you. So you will have bumps as a business owner. You're just gonna it's just gonna happen. Like there's gonna be a law or a algorithm change or like the real estate market's gonna change or something is
Mhm.
going to happen that you have no control over. And your team is looking to you going, how are we gonna weather this?
Yeah.
And so if you can't steer the ship, if you can't like get yourself under like, okay, I've got this,
Mhm.
you're gonna crash into some walls. And I've done it. Like I've done it. So like when I'm saying this, it's like there's no part of me that's like judging where someone is because like
Mhm.
I have been there and I've done
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, it's all part of the learning process. No one wakes up as the perfect leader. It just it takes a it's a learning process.
I don't think a perfect exists. I don't think a
Yeah.
perfect leader exists.
Yeah.
I think that the best leaders are constantly working to improve themselves and get to the next level themselves because everybody around them is also doing that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's good to try to push your team to improve as well. Sharing those resources, I think, is super helpful.
Yeah.
Cool. So, um, I guess knowing what you know now, what's some advice that you'd give to yourself when you're just getting started?
Oh, I love that. I would probably tell myself, don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing the best that you can with what you have. Um, I actually spend a fair amount of time, um, I spend a fair amount of time working with my team on, I'm sorry, there was a thing that popped up on
Yeah, it's
my,
okay.
my screen and I totally like got distracted. I'm not sure why someone invited me to a meeting.
It's all
Um,
right.
what was the question again? And I'll get back
Uh,
on track here.
so the question was, knowing what you know now, what's some advice you'd give to yourself when you're just getting started?
Um, I share actually a lot of this on my Instagram because my social media guys are telling me all the time, like, talk to your younger self. What did your younger self need to hear?
That's
And I
good.
think I think that there was a lot of I think there's also like a really huge lack of accountability in like I think that that is a big piece that's so needed.
Mhm.
Um, and I also a feeling like I needed to do it alone. Like there is you don't have to go it alone. Like there's no you shouldn't go it alone because when you try and go it alone, you are going to have days when you fall down and you need a team to lift you up. Whether that team is a neighbor that you know, or a mentor of somebody who's walked that road, or someone on social media that you happen to just connect with on threads that's like there to build you up. You got to have someone around you because we're all going to have moments when we fall down, and being able to be selective on who we choose to put around us and who we choose to listen to, because just because someone has an opinion does not mean that you should be listening to that opinion. And that was actually really hard for me because my dad owned a business,
Mm.
and my dad reached a certain level with his business where he was like, I'm comfortable here. I don't want to go beyond this. And so there was a season where I had to walk away and say, I'm no longer going to listen to what my dad says because he's never walked this path. He's never walked the path of scaling a multi, 10 plus figure, 8, 9. He hasn't done that. So like, what am I doing listening to my dad, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for? And if there's something that I need to ask him about that he has walked that I look up to, I'll ask him. So I think it's also okay to not listen to everyone and it's important to not listen to everyone who has an opinion.
Yeah, that was a tough one to start off with is because, everyone's, especially the ones that are close to you, the people that are close to you, they worry and they want to make sure that you are being safe, especially if you have a family. And so they'll say, why do you need to do this? Please stop. Go just get a job and just, have a stable life. But I don't want to do that. And it's just coming from a place of like care, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and I don't know if you've experienced this. I personally have come alive since owning my business.
Hmm.
Whereas before, I think every time I walked into a workplace, there was just a piece of me that just died trying to because I wanted to build my own thing. And that was
Hmm.
just that was what was written on my heart. And so when someone is asking me to hold back from what it is that's written on my heart, I guarantee you that they have no idea that they're asking me to literally let my dreams and let a part of me die.
Right.
So
Yeah. I I guess my thought was a little bit different. I guess in the same vein that um, I did not want to have to be tied to a desk. I wanted to be able to take my daughters to their classes in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, because that's part of their life, and I want to see what they're experiencing. These are things that they enjoy, and wanted to be a part of that is so important to me.
that's that's a beautiful vision that you had, and that I'm assuming you're living that life.
Yeah, so right now, I live in Florida, but right now I'm in DC. I get to hang out with my family for a week, and then while I work, and then go back to Florida, and then continue my life. Um, but earlier, when you're talking about when you're giving yourself the advice, it just reminded me. I started listening to Who Not How again because that's such an important book.
I have not read that one. That one's going to go on my list. I'm going to buy that
Yeah,
one when I leave here.
yeah, because I went through the same thing. I should be able to do all this on my own, especially since my operator left in December. It's like, oh no, now everything's done. I should just do it by myself like I had been before. But having a team around you is definitely, it helps.
Oh, and as a mom, there's no way you can do it at the level that I want to do it at and be a
Mhm.
mom. There's just no way that I could show up. I mean, this week is a perfect example. So my household manager has influenza.
Mhm.
And so I've been patching together childcare. My parents happen to be in town, so my parents are watching my daughter right now.
Mhm.
And my husband looked at me last night and goes, "You look stressed." And I'm like, "Yeah, this weekly trying to patch together who's going to watch this person on this place, and okay, I've got to come home and figure out what I'm doing for food and what's going on with the laundry and what do we need ordered, because that's all taken care of for me so
Right.
that I can show up here. So my business is providing for me that, because my family, it doesn't matter. My kids do not care how the food gets on the table. They don't care
Mhm.
how their clothes get cleaned. They don't care. They do care if I drop them off at school. They
Yeah.
do care if I'm present at plays and different things
Mhm.
like that. They
Yeah.
do want to be involved when they want to show up in the business and they want to like be engaged and they want to see what mom is doing. And so I've outsourced a lot of those other things because there's no way as a mom that I can I can't function at the level that I need to at work if I don't hire out and outsource and have that team at home. There's just no way.
Yeah, having help to take care of the things that they don't really, well, you're not really engaging with your family or your kids, I think is one of the most underrated things because we always thought, oh, we have to do it ourselves. But no, like no one cares who folds the clothes or who puts it away.
No one. Well,
Yeah.
and I think for women especially, and I don't know that this is true, but I've talked to a lot of women
Hmm.
who giving up the cleaning of the house and the laundry, it's an identity crisis for us. And
Hmm.
I had that. I was working 6 days a week, 80 plus hours in those 6 days, and then coming home and trying to meal prep and do the laundry and clean the house. And I hired someone to come in and do my laundry and clean the house.
Hmm.
And it was a game changer for me just to hire that one person. And it
Right.
took me like 8 months and like some really serious hard talks with myself to get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually do this because I felt like it was my job to take care of my then boyfriend because that's what I needed to do.
Hmm.
He was like, I don't need you to do that. And I'm still feeling like, yeah, but I'm not taking care of you. Like, I'm not being a good partner. I'm not being a good by doing that. So,
Yeah, there's just different ways of supporting and providing for each other, and
exactly.
yeah, that doesn't have to be one of them, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, it does not.
Well, I do want to ask you because um, you had, I guess you became a mom in the middle of running your business. So what was your schedule like, or what's your schedule like now?
So my schedule like now is nothing compared to like before I had kids.
Hmm.
And actually like I had this plan. I think God was laughing at me when I said I had this
Hmm.
plan for what I was
Yeah.
going to do. I was going to train these certain people and it was going to be ready. And then I went into labor 2.5 months early.
Yeah.
So I had a preemie
Hmm.
and really quickly had to outsource and offload a whole bunch of things to my team members
Hmm.
and just hope and pray that they didn't run the thing into the ground because at that moment, for those 40 days when my child was in the NICU, there was not a question of where my focus was going to be.
Hmm.
And for about 18 months after that, because she was 4 pounds when she came home. It was in the middle of COVID. And so like we were in this little bubble where there was days where my husband went and stayed in other parts of the house because he'd been exposed to people. And our child had just been on a ventilator. And so we were like, so there was it was this whole season. It
Hmm.
really woke me up though to like, how do I really want to do this? And how do I want to function as a mom? And I'm actually very grateful for that season now because I now function in a very different way. I have at that time when I had my daughter, I had no rhythms, no routines, no structure. Like I just showed up and started working. Like I just come into the office as soon as I got up in the morning and I just work sometimes until 1 in the morning, go home, crash, come back to the office,
Hmm.
just work, crash. So that was kind of my MO. I think it's kind of a not uncommon startup life for someone who
Right.
is single or in a relationship with a person that that was my life.
Hmm.
Um, and after I had my daughter, I have 45 hours a week that I have my nanny or household manager. And so I have to get my workout in that time. I have to get all of the things that I need to do for the business in that time. And so I now function with a schedule, which that was a dirty word when I first was in business. And now my schedule is how I make sure that I prioritize the things that I need to. And I'm really intentional about how my home is set up. So I actually hired an organizer last year to organize my home so that like my kids can put their toys away,
Hmm.
so that everything that I need is easily, my household manager can look to see where everything needs to be so that they can figure out when something is low, so that I don't have to stress about how we're going to get the things that we need to in our house. I've been intentional about the toys that I brought into my life for my kids because I was doing toy rotations and was like, oh my God, I'm going to die if I have to do another toy rotation again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a bunch of research on toys that are more open-ended that my kids can play. And so now I have, I have Legos, I have Magnetiles, I have
Mm-hmm.
characters, and I have some of like, I've been really intentional with the toys that I brought in, which has actually decreased the stress in our household in general because now we don't have 500 million toys all over the place. Because every time we walked into the store, it was like, oh, my child wants this thing. And it's like, okay. And so we'd bring it in, and then it was like, A, it didn't have a home. B, it didn't fit with anything else. C, it wasn't helping my kids' brains develop.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of those, like really being intentional about where I wanted to spend my time, and I don't want to spend my time sorting and organizing my house. So I need a system that can just grow with us, that can, you know, and then structure. Structure has just been key to figuring out. And it's evolved, it evolves. There's seasons where it's like, okay, yeah.
That's I love that because when we think about systems and processes, we think about for businesses only, but they can apply to the home as well.
Well, and the crazy thing about the home ones is, for me at least, that's where I've been able to move the needle the most because when I am at the office, you need systems and you need processes, no question. And I was
Mhm.
already focused on that. But then I'd come home into my home environment and I'd find my stress levels spiking because
Mhm.
I didn't have rhythms for my children. And if I didn't have rhythms and function, like how my kids, what does bedtime look like? What does morning look like so that I can get the things done in the morning that I need to for me to show up and work really well? Because when you're a mom and you're being woken up multiple times in the night because your child has a fever or because of whatever,
Mhm.
you what does that morning look like? Because my morning, I can't wake up at 4 a.m. when I've been up 5 times in the night, or I do not function.
Right.
It does not work.
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 4 and 7.
Okay. So
Yeah.
mine are 3 and 7. So
Okay.
right
Yeah.
around those ages.
Yeah. It's still, I mean, good sleep is still inconsistent.
Hmm.
Um, I hear it doesn't get better until they're 10 years old, but still a fun age to have them run around and listen to the things that they say.
I love the listen to their brain develop and like the way that they're like, I'm like, how did you put those two things together?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. So how can people reach out to you and work with you?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram. It's Sarah, Sarah underscore Arndt, Ahrendt. That's my Instagram. And then my construction company is Ardmor Construction, Ardmor Construction. Here's Ardmore.
Okay, cool.
So yeah,
And we'll make sure to have those links in the description just so
yeah,
everyone it's easy for everyone.
for
Uh,
sure.
but yeah, Sarah, thank you again for coming on.
Okay, thank you.